He thought he had the perfect suspect, a black teenager alone in a store full of cash and expensive electronics. Officer Brett Holloway didn't see a straight-A student or a hard-working employee. He saw a criminal. He ignored the badge. He ignored the manager, and he ignored the warnings. He was so busy power-tripping that he didn't realize the terrifying mistake he was making until the precinct doors swung open. Because the woman he told to shut up and come pick up her thug son. She wasn't just a concerned mother. She was the newly appointed police chief, and she was about to end his career in front of the entire department. The fluorescent lights of Tech Zone, a high-end electronics retailer in the sleepy suburb of Oak Creek, hummed with a low, electric buzz. It was 8:45 p.m. on a Tuesday, 15 minutes before closing. The store was empty, save for the rows of glittering laptops, 4K monitors, and the solitary figure moving methodically behind the main register. Dante Williams, 17 years old, adjusted his name tag. It read, Dante, Senior Associate. He was tall for his age, with a wiry, athletic build and glasses that slid down his nose whenever he looked down at the inventory tablet. He was trying to finish the nightly audit of the high-value cage, the locked glass cabinet behind the counter where the newest smartphones were kept. Dante loved this job. It was quiet. The employee discount helped him build his own PC, and it kept him busy while his mum settled into her new, high-stress job in the city. They had only moved to Oak Creek 3 months ago. It was supposed to be a fresh start, a safer neighborhood than the chaotic precinct his mother had run back in Chicago. "Hey, Mr. Henderson," Dante called out, his voice echoing slightly in the empty store. "I'm short one of the Pro Max tablets on the count, but the system says it was a return. Do you want me to check the back?" Gary Henderson, the store manager, poked his head out of the office. Gary was a good man, but nervous. He was the kind of guy who apologized to tables when he bumped into them. "Yeah. Dante. Check the RMA bin in the back. I'll lock the front doors in 5. You got it." Dante set the tablet down on the counter. He didn't lock the register screen, a small mistake, but they were closed. Right. He walked toward the stockroom at the back of the store. As the heavy metal door of the stockroom swung shut behind Dante, the front chimes of the store rang out. Bing bong. Gary, in the office. Didn't hear it over the sound of the safe counting machine. Officer Brett Holloway strolled in. Holloway was a 20-year veteran of the Oak Creek force, and he wore his bitterness like a second skin. He was heavy-set, his uniform straining at the buttons, with a face that was perpetually flushed red. He had joined the force to bust bad guys. But in Oak Creek, he mostly busted teenagers for skateboarding and wrote parking tickets. He hated it. He felt he deserved respect, fear, and authority. Tonight, he was just looking for a phone charger. But his mood was foul. His partner had called in sick, leaving him on solo patrol, and his pension review was coming up with the new chief, a woman he'd never met but already resented for being an outsider hire. Holloway walked to the aisle with the cables. He grabbed a USB-C cord, checking the price. $29.99. He scoffed. He walked to the counter to pay. No one was there. "Hello," Holloway barked. "Service, silence." Holloway leaned over the counter. He saw the register screen was active. He saw the glass cabinet behind the counter. The one with the phones was slightly ajar. Dante had left it unlocked to grab the inventory count. Holloway's eyes narrowed. An open high-value cage. An abandoned register. Just then, the stockroom door clicked open. Dante walked out, holding a white box. He was looking down at it. Smiling. He had found the missing return. He didn't see Halloway immediately. Found it. Mr. Henderson. It was just under the... Dante looked up and froze. Standing at the counter was a police officer, but the officer wasn't smiling. His hand was resting instinctively near his holster, his posture aggressive. Good evening, officer, Dante said, putting on his best customer service voice. He walked back behind the counter, placing the box down. Sorry about the wait. Can I ring you up? Halloway didn't move. He stared at Dante. He stared at the box. Then he looked at the open glass cabinet. You in a rush? Kid Halloway asked, his voice low and raspy. Dante blinked, confused. Excuse me, I said. Are you in a rush? You came busting out of that back room pretty fast. Halloway took a step to the side, blocking the path to the front door, though he was on the customer side. And I see you've got the merch cabinet wide open. Oh, Dante chuckled nervously, reaching back to close the glass slider. Yeah, we're just doing inventory. I was looking for a return. I'm actually just about to close up. Inventory, Halloway repeated, savoring the word like it was a lie he had just caught. He looked Dante up and down, hoodie part of the uniform, but Halloway didn't care. Sneakers. Black kid. Halloway's bias kicked in, hard and fast. In his mind, he saw a narrative kid breaks in or sneaks in, forces the manager into the back, looting the place. Where's the manager? Halloway demanded. He's in the office counting the cash, Dante said, his hand hovering over the register. Sir, do you want to buy that cable or not? We close in 5 minutes. Don't you get smart with me. Boy, Halloway snapped. The sudden aggression made Dante flinch. Step away from the register. Now. What I work here. I said step away from the register, Halloway shouted, his hand unsnapping the retention strap on his holster. Dante's heart hammered against his ribs. He knew the protocol. His mom had drilled it into him 1,000 times. Hands visible. Speak clearly. Don't run. Don't reach. Dante slowly lifted his hands, palms open. Officer, I am the senior associate here. My name is Dante. My manager is in the back. If you just let me call him, I'm not letting you do a damn thing, Halloway growled. He rounded the counter, pushing through the swinging half door that separated the employees from the customers. Turn around. Hands on the counter. Spread your legs. Sir, this is crazy. I work here. Dante's voice rose an octave in panic. Stop resisting. Halloway lunged, grabbing Dante by the shoulder and spinning him around. He slammed Dante's chest against the hard laminate counter. The sound of the impact thud echoed through the store. The impact knocked the wind out of Dante. His glasses skittered across the countertop. Officer, please. Dante gasped, his cheek pressed against the cold surface. Check the name tag. It's on my hoodie. Halloway ignored it. Adrenaline was flooding his system. He felt powerful. He had caught one. A live one. Shut up. You have the right to remain silent. Halloway jammed his knee into the back of Dante's thigh, forcing him to buckle. He grabbed Dante's left wrist and twisted it behind his back, high up near the shoulder blades. Oh, you're hurting me. You should have thought about that before you decided to rob a store in my town, Halloway grunted, fumbling for his cuffs. At that moment, the office door at the back opened. Gary Henderson walked out, holding a clipboard. Dante. I found the discrepancy with the hay. Gary stopped, his eyes widening. Whoa. Whoa. Officer, what are you doing? Halloway looked up, sweat beading on his forehead. He saw a middle-aged white man in a button-down shirt. The victim. "It's okay," Sir Halloway yelled, clicking the first cuff onto Dante's wrist. "I've got the perpetrator secured." "Did he hurt you?" "Is there anyone else in the back?" Gary dropped the clipboard. It clattered loudly. "Perpetrator. That's Dante. He works for me." Halloway paused for a fraction of a second. The information hit his ears, but his pride wouldn't let it reach his brain. He had already committed. He had already used force. If he backed down now, he looked like an idiot. Or worse, he looked like a liability. He doubled down. "He works here," Halloway sneered, yanking Dante's other arm back. Click. The handcuffs were tight. Too tight. That's what they all say. I walked in and the cage was open. The register was unsecured. And he was running out of the back room. Looked suspicious as hell to me. He was getting a return. Gary rushed forward, but Halloway held up a hand. "Back off." "Sir, unless you want to be charged with obstruction." Gary froze. He was a weak man when it came to confrontation, and the uniform scared him. "Officer, please, I'm the manager. I can vouch for him. Take the cuffs off." Halloway hauled Dante up by the chain of the handcuffs. Dante cried out in pain, his shoulders screaming. "I'm not taking anything off until I verify his identity," Halloway said, his voice dripping with unearned authority. He spun Dante around to face him. "You got ID, kid?" "It's in my locker," Dante said, tears of frustration stinging his eyes. "In the back. Convenient." Halloway spat. "So you have no ID on you. You're handling thousands of dollars of merchandise, and you have no ID. I'm 17. My wallet is in my locker, so it doesn't get stolen." Halloway dragged Dante out from behind the counter, parading him into the middle of the store. "We're going to the station. We'll sort out who you are down there. If you are who you say you are, you've got nothing to worry about." "You can't arrest him," Gary pleaded, following them but keeping a safe distance. "I'm telling you, he's my employee. And I'm telling you, Mr. Manager, that I've seen plenty of inside jobs," Halloway retorted. He was improvising now, trying to construct a narrative that justified his aggression. "How do I know you aren't in on it? Maybe I should cuff you too." Gary went pale and shut his mouth. Halloway smiled grimly. He had control. He keyed his radio. "Dispatch. This is 4 Alpha 20. I've got one male in custody at the tech zone on Miller Street. Possible burglary in progress. Suspect was securing high-value electronics when I intercepted. Requesting transport." The radio crackled. "Copy 4, -Alpha-20. Transport is 10 minutes out. Is the scene secure?" "Scene is secure. I'm detaining the suspect outside." Halloway shoved Dante toward the door. As they exited the cool air conditioning into the humid night, a small crowd had started to gather. A woman, Mrs. Gable, the town gossip, known for calling the HOA if someone's grass was an inch too high, was standing there with her phone out. Recording. "Look at that," Mrs. Gable narrated to her Facebook Live audience. "Finally cleaning up this town. I knew that store was going downhill." Dante saw the phone. He turned his face away, the humiliation burning hotter than the handcuffs. "Officer," Dante said, his voice shaking but gaining a sudden, steely resolve. He remembered who his mother was. He had tried to protect her position, tried not to be the kid who pulls the "do you know who I am" card. But this man was dangerous. "I need to make a phone call," Dante said firmly. Halloway laughed. He pushed Dante against the hood of his patrol car. "You want to call a lawyer? You can do that at the station." "No," Dante said, looking Halloway dead in the eyes. "I want to call my mother." Halloway leaned in close, his breath smelling of stale coffee and onions. Or, you want your mummy? Is she going to come down here and yell at me? Yes, Dante said. She is. Holloway smirked. He pulled Dante's phone out of the boy's back pocket. He unlocked it by holding it up to Dante's face for the Face ID before Dante could pull away. Let's call Mummy then. Let's tell her her little angel is going to jail. Holloway scrolled through the contacts. He found Mom. He hit dial and put it on speaker, holding the phone up like a trophy. The line rang once, twice. Then, a sharp, authoritative voice answered. Dante, everything okay? You're late getting off. Holloway cleared his throat, puffing out his chest. This isn't Dante. This is Officer Brett Holloway of the Oak Creek Police Department. I have your son in custody for attempted burglary and resisting arrest. There was a silence on the other end of the line. It wasn't a silence of fear. It was the silence of a predator assessing a threat. In custody, the voice repeated. It was ice cold. Where are you? We are outside the tech zone, Holloway said, enjoying this. I suggest you come down here with proof of his identity, or he's going into the system as a John Doe. Officer Holloway, the woman said. Her voice had dropped a register. It sounded familiar, but Holloway couldn't place it. Is my son injured? He's secured, Holloway said, glancing at where Dante was wincing against the hot metal of the car hood. I am 3 minutes away, she said. Do not move. Do not say another word to him. And Holloway? Yeah, he asked, annoyed by her tone. Make sure your body camera is on. You're going to need it. The line went dead. Holloway laughed, tossing the phone onto the hood of the car next to Dante. She sounds like a piece of work. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Huh. Dante looked up. For the first time, he smiled. It was a small, sad smile. You have no idea, Dante whispered. The humid night air clung to Dante's skin, mixing with the cold sweat of fear. He was leaning against the hood of the patrol car, the metal engine heat radiating through his jeans. His wrists screamed in protest. The handcuffs were ratcheted so tight they were pinching the ulnar nerve. His fingers were starting to go numb. Officer Holloway was pacing. He was performing now. He saw Mrs. Gable's phone pointed at him. The red live indicator, a beacon for his ego. He puffed out his chest, hooking his thumbs into his duty belt. This is what happens when we don't have law and order, Holloway announced, his voice pitched loud enough for the gathering crowd to hear. Store owners shouldn't have to live in fear. We get a call. We respond. That's the job. Doesn't matter who it is. He works there, a younger woman in the crowd shouted. She was holding a bag of groceries. I've seen him in there fixing laptops. His name is Dante. Holloway scoffed, waving a dismissive hand. Yeah, and I've seen bank tellers rob banks. Access doesn't mean innocence, folks. It means opportunity. He turned back to Dante, leaning in close so only the boy could hear. See that they think they know, but they don't know the streets like I do. You think your mummy is going to save you. I've dealt with angry mothers for 20 years. They scream, they cry, they threaten to sue, and you know where their kids end up, right in the back seat. Dante didn't respond. He just stared at the intersection down the road. He was counting the seconds. 1 minute left. Gary Henderson, the manager, was still hovering near the store entrance. He looked like he was about to vomit. He wanted to help, but his fear of authority paralyzed him. He held Dante's glasses in his hands, polishing them nervously with his shirt tail. Officer, Gary tried again, his voice weak. Can we at least let him sit in the car? It's embarrassing for him. He's a suspect in a felony burglary, sir," Holloway snapped. "He stands until I say he sits." Suddenly, the sound of an engine roared in the distance, not the whine of a standard sedan, but the deep, throaty growl of a V8 engine pushing hard. Holloway looked up. Finally, transport. But it wasn't the transport van. Around the corner, tires screeching against the asphalt, a black Chevrolet Tahoe whipped into the parking lot. It didn't have a light bar on top, but red and blue lights flashed aggressively from the grille and the interior visor. It was an unmarked command vehicle. The Tahoe didn't park in a spot. It surged forward, mounting the curb and coming to a halt at a sharp angle just 10 feet from Holloway's patrol car. Blocking him in, Holloway frowned. This wasn't standard procedure. Who was driving a command unit this late? The driver's door flew open before the engine even cut out. A woman stepped out. She was dressed in a sharp charcoal pantsuit, not a uniform. But the way she moved, the tactical precision of her stride, the set of her shoulders screamed law enforcement. She was tall, black, with hair pulled back in a severe, no-nonsense bun. Her eyes were scanning the scene, processing 1,000 details in a second. The crowd, the phone cameras, the manager, the officer, and finally, her son handcuffed to the hood of a car. It was Regina Sterling. She didn't run to Dante. She didn't scream. She walked toward Holloway with a terrifying, predatory calm. Holloway didn't recognize her. He saw a civilian in a suit. He saw a black woman who looked angry. He assumed she was the mother he had just hung up on. "Whoa! Whoa! Hold up!" Holloway held up a hand, stepping away from Dante to intercept her. "Back inside your vehicle. Mom, this is an active crime scene." Regina didn't stop. She didn't even slow down. She walked right up to Holloway, invading his personal space, forcing him to take a step back. "Officer Holloway," she said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried a weight that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. "You requested I come down here with identification," Holloway scoffed, regaining his composure. He smirked for Mrs. Gable's camera. "Oh, right. The mother. Look, lady, I know you're upset, but you can't just drive up on a sidewalk like that. I'm gonna have to write you up for that, too. Now stand back while I process your son." Regina ignored him completely. She looked past him to Dante. "Dante," she said, her voice softening just a fraction. "Are you injured? My shoulder hurts." "Mum," Dante said, his voice cracking. "He twisted it pretty bad, and the cuffs are cutting my circulation." Regina's eyes dropped to Dante's wrists. She saw the swelling. She saw the angle of his arms. She looked back at Holloway. The temperature in the parking lot seemed to drop 10 degrees. "Uncuff him," she commanded. Holloway laughed. It was a short, barking sound. "Excuse me, I don't take orders from civilians. Your son is under arrest. Now back off before I cuff you for obstruction of justice." Regina stared at him. She reached into her blazer pocket. Holloway's hand dropped to his taser. "Don't reach," I said. "Don't reach." Regina moved slowly, deliberately. She pulled out a leather wallet. She flipped it open. A gold badge glinted under the parking lot lights. It wasn't a detective's shield. It wasn't a sergeant's star. It was the gold eagle of a high-ranking executive officer. "I am Chief Regina Sterling," she said, her voice cutting through the humid air like a scalpel. "I was sworn in on Monday. I am your superior officer, and I gave you a direct order." Silence slammed into the parking lot. The crowd went dead quiet. Even Mrs. Gable stopped narrating, her mouth hanging open. Holloway stared at the badge. He stared at the woman. His brain was misfiring, trying to reconcile the angry mum narrative he had built with the reality standing in front of him. Chief Sterling, the new hire from Chicago, the outsider everyone in the locker room had been complaining about. Halloway stammered. His hand fell away from his taser. Chief, I didn't know. Clearly, Regina said. She snapped the wallet shut. I told you to uncuff him. Why is he still in restraints? Ma'am, Chief, he was caught attempting to rob the store. Halloway tried to pivot, his voice rising in a desperate attempt to salvage the situation. I caught him fleeing the back room. The high-value cage was open. Standard procedure. State standard procedure, Regina interrupted. Stepping closer. Dictates that you verify a suspect's status before applying pain compliance techniques on a compliant minor. Did you interview the store manager? Halloway pointed at Gary. Regina turned to Gary. Sir, are you the manager? Gary Henderson straightened up. He saw the shift in power. He saw the panic in Halloway's eyes. Suddenly, he wasn't afraid of the uniform anymore. Yes, ma'am, Gary said, stepping forward. I am. I told the officer repeatedly that Dante is my employee. He was doing inventory. I was in the back, counting the cash. There was no robbery. Regina turned back to Halloway. Her expression was unreadable, which made it all the more terrifying. The manager identified him. Regina stated. The suspect identified himself. And yet, you have him handcuffed to the hood of a car like a violent felon. He resisted. Halloway blurted out. He got smart with me. I felt threatened. Regina looked at Dante. Dante, turn around. Dante awkwardly shuffled around, so his back was to his mother. Regina inspected the handcuffs. Double locked, she asked Halloway. I didn't get to it yet. So you have a minor in tight cuffs, not double locked, meaning they have been tightening every time he moves, Regina narrated for the crowd. And for the body camera she knew was recording. You have no complainant. You have a manager vouching for him, and you have no probable cause other than his presence in the store. Sirens wailed in the distance. The actual transport van was arriving, along with 2 other patrol cars. Good, Regina said. Back up. The patrol cars screeched to a halt. 4 officers spilled out. One of them was Sergeant Miller, the watch commander for the night shift. He was a good cop, by the book, and he knew exactly what Chief Sterling looked like. Miller took one look at the scene, the chief standing over Halloway. The kid in cuffs and his face went pale. Chief Sterling Miller jogged over, adjusting his belt. He ignored Halloway completely. Sergeant Miller, watch commander. What is the situation, Sergeant? Regina said, not taking her eyes off Halloway. Officer Halloway here has detained my son, an employee of this establishment, for the crime of working while black. He has refused to release him, despite the manager's corroboration. Miller's eyes widened. He looked at Halloway with a mixture of disbelief and fury. Halloway, what the hell did you do, Sarge? I didn't know it was her son. Halloway pleaded, his voice cracking. He was in the dark. He looked suspicious. Get the keys. Regina ordered Miller. Miller didn't hesitate. He stepped to Halloway. Give me your cuff keys. Now. Halloway's hands shook as he fumbled for the key on his belt. He handed it to Miller. Miller walked over to Dante. Sorry, son, he muttered. Let's get these off you. Click, click. Dante's arms fell free. He groaned, rubbing his wrists. Deep red furrows were etched into his skin where the metal had bitten in. Regina was there in an instant. She took Dante's hands, examining the injury. She gently touched his shoulder. Is it broken? She asked quietly. Don't think so, Dante whispered. just bruised. Regina nodded. She kissed his forehead, a brief moment of maternal tenderness. Then she turned back to Holloway. The mother was gone. The chief was back. "Officer Holloway," she said. Holloway stood at attention, sweating profusely. "Yes." "Chief, you are relieved of duty," she said. The words hung in the air like a guillotine blade. "Chief, you can't. For a misunderstanding," Holloway argued, looking to Miller for support. Miller looked away. "A misunderstanding is forgetting a form," Regina said, her voice rising so the entire parking lot could hear. "Detaining a minor without cause is a violation of civil rights. Ignoring a witness is gross negligence, and using excessive force on a compliant subject." She stepped closer until she was nose to nose with him. "That is assault. Give me your badge and your gun." The request was so shocking that Holloway froze. Cops didn't take other cops' guns in the street. Not in Oak Creek. That was something that happened in movies, or in internal affairs offices behind closed doors. "Chief, with all due respect," Holloway whispered, trying to keep the crowd from hearing. "Can we do this at the station? People are filming." Regina glanced at Mrs. Gable, who was now holding her phone as steady as a tripod, capturing every pixel of Holloway's humiliation. "You didn't mind them filming when you were parading my son around like a trophy," Regina said, her voice icy. "You wanted an audience, Officer Holloway. You wanted to show this town how you handle suspicious characters. Well, now you're going to show them how I handle bad officers." She held out her hand, palm up, expectant. "Badge, gun. Now." Holloway looked at Sergeant Miller. Miller stared back, his face hard. "Do it, Brett. Don't make this worse." With trembling hands, Holloway unholstered his service weapon. He ejected the magazine, cleared the chamber, a round clattering onto the asphalt, and handed the weapon to Miller, who bagged it immediately. Then, Holloway reached for his chest. He unpinned the silver badge that he had hidden behind for 20 years. The metal felt heavy in his hand. He placed it in Regina's palm. "You are suspended effective immediately pending an internal affairs investigation," Regina announced formally. "You are barred from the precinct. You are barred from accessing police databases." Sergeant Miller. "Yes, Chief. Please escort Mr. Holloway to your vehicle. He is not to drive his patrol car. You will transport him to the station to process his suspension paperwork, and then you will drive him home." "Understood." "I'm taking my car." Holloway protested. "That is a city vehicle," Regina corrected him. "And you are no longer an active employee of the city. You can walk home, or you can take a ride from the sergeant." "Choose." Holloway looked at the crowd. They were silent, watching the Titan fall. He looked at Dante, who was rubbing his wrists, standing next to his mother. For a second, their eyes met. Dante didn't look triumphant. He just looked tired. Holloway hung his head. "I'll go with the sergeant." Miller grabbed Holloway by the elbow firmly, not gently, and led him toward the back of the cruiser. Regina turned to the crowd. She saw the phones. She addressed them directly. "Show's over," she said calmly. "If anyone has video of the incident prior to my arrival, please forward it to the chief's office tomorrow morning. We will need it for the investigation." She turned to Gary Henderson. The manager flinched. "Mr. Henderson," Regina said, "I apologize for the disruption to your business." No, Chief, I'm just glad Dante is okay," Gary stammered. "He's a good kid. Best worker I have." "He is." Regina smiled, a genuine, proud smile. "He takes after his father. She put her arm around Dante. "Come on, let's go get that shoulder looked at." "What about my bike?" Dante asked. "It's around back. We'll get it tomorrow," Regina said. "Tonight? You're riding in the big car?" As they walked toward the black Tahoe, Dante leaned into his mum. "You really fired him," he whispered. "Suspended," she corrected. "Firing takes paperwork. But he's done. Dante, I promise you that. Men like that rely on the silence of good people and the fear of the vulnerable. He picked the wrong family tonight. They got into the Tahoe. The heavy doors slammed shut, sealing out the noise, the humidity, and the prying eyes. Regina started the engine, but before she put it in gear, she turned to Dante. Her tough exterior crumbled for just a second, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "I was so scared," she admitted, her voice trembling. "When I heard his voice on your phone, I knew you were coming," Dante said. "I wasn't scared. Well, maybe a little, but I knew you'd handle it." Regina gripped the steering wheel. "I'm going to handle it." "All right. This isn't over. Holloway is just the symptom. Tomorrow, we cure the disease." She put the car in drive, but as they pulled away, neither of them noticed the dark sedan parked across the street. Lights off. Inside, a man was watching through binoculars. He picked up a phone. "Yeah," the man said. "She's here, and she just made a public spectacle of Holloway. The union isn't going to like this. We can use it. Holloway's bad night was over. But the war for the precinct was just beginning." The next morning, the sun rose over Oak Creek, but the mood inside the precinct was anything but bright. It was a storm front. Officer Holloway hadn't gone home to reflect on his mistakes. He had gone straight to Frank Dougherty, the police union representative. Dougherty was a man who looked like he was carved out of granite and cigarette smoke. He had been protecting bad cops for 30 years, burying complaints, intimidating witnesses, and spinning narratives. To him, Regina Sterling wasn't a chief. She was a political appointment, a temporary inconvenience. At 9:00 a.m. sharp, Dougherty kicked open the door to the chief's office without knocking. He was flanked by 2 lawyers in expensive suits. Regina was sitting at her desk, reviewing the previous night's arrest logs. She didn't look up. Knocking is customary. "Mr. Dougherty," Regina said, turning a page of the report. "Cut the crap." "Regina!" Dougherty barked, slamming a folder onto her desk. "You publicly humiliated a 20-year veteran last night. You stripped a decorated officer of his weapon in front of civilians. That's a violation of the collective bargaining agreement." Article 4, Section 2. Regina finally looked up. Her eyes were calm, but dangerous. Article 4 protects officers from unjust discipline. It does not protect them from the consequences of assault and unlawful detention. Assault, Dougherty laughed, a dry, humorless sound. He was securing a suspect. The kid ran. The kid resisted. Holloway followed protocol, and then you, the mother, showed up and abused your power to get your son out of trouble. That's the story the press is going to run with at noon. Regina leaned back in her chair. "Is that so?" "We have statements," Dougherty said, pacing the room. "We have officers willing to testify that you were emotional, erratic, and biased. We're filing a motion of no confidence. We're going to bury you, Chief, unless—" He let the word hang in the air. "Unless Regina prompted. Unless you reinstate Holloway immediately, full back pay, a public apology, and you drop this investigation. You do that. And maybe we don't leak the story that the new police chief is soft on crime because her family is full of delinquents." It was a trap, a classic, Dirty power play. If she reinstated him, she lost the respect of the community and her own son. If she fought them, they would drag Dante's name through the mud, painting him as a thug to justify Halloway's actions. Regina stood up. She walked to the window, looking out at the parking lot where her Tahoe was parked. "You know, Frank," she said softly, "you made one mistake." "And what's that?" "You assumed I came to this meeting unprepared." Regina pressed a button on her desk phone. "Send him in." The door to the side office opened. A young man walked in. It wasn't Dante. It was Kevin, the rookie officer who had been assigned to process the body camera footage from the night before. He looked terrified, holding a USB drive like it was a grenade. "Officer Kevin," Regina said. "Please play the file marked Halloway_audio_enhancement." Kevin plugged the drive into the large monitor on the wall. Dougherty scoffed. "We've seen the body cam. It's grainy. It proves nothing. The video is grainy," Regina admitted. "But the microphone on those new body cams is military grade. It picks up everything, even whispers, even muttering under your breath. The video played. It showed Halloway walking into tech zone. It showed Dante coming out of the back. Then, the audio kicked in. It was crystal clear, Halloway muttering, "Look at this thug, probably casing the joint. I bet he's got a weapon." Dante. "Can I help you?" Sir Halloway whispering to himself. "Yeah, you can help me by getting on the ground. Boy, I need an arrest this month, or the pension review is going to be a bitch. Let's see if we can provoke him." Dougherty's face went pale. The lawyers shifted uncomfortably. "He premeditated it," Regina said, her voice hard as steel. "He admitted on tape that he needed an arrest for his pension review. He admitted to profiling. He admitted to trying to provoke a reaction." The video continued. It played the part where Halloway was twisting Dante's arm, Halloway whispering, "Cry for me. Come on. Give me a reason to snap it." Regina hit pause. The silence in the room was suffocating. "That's not just a policy violation, Frank," Regina said, turning to face the union rep. "That is a federal civil rights violation. That is a hate crime. And that is a confession." She walked over to the desk and picked up the folder Dougherty had slammed down. She tossed it into the trash can. "I'm not just firing him," Regina said. "I'm handing this footage to the district attorney. And if you try to protect him, if you try to spin this hero cop narrative, I will release this audio to the press, and I will name you, personally, as an accessory after the fact for trying to cover up a hate crime." Dougherty looked at the screen. He looked at Regina. He realized, for the first time in years, he had lost. He wasn't dealing with a rookie. He was dealing with a shark. We didn't know about the audio," Dougherty stammered. "Now you do," Regina said. "Get out of my office and tell Halloway to get a good lawyer. He's going to need more than the union to save him." The morning sun over Oak Creek usually brought a sense of suburban calm, but inside the precinct, the atmosphere was radioactive. The revelation of the whisper tape, the enhanced audio from Halloway's body camera, had shifted the tectonic plates of the department. This wasn't just a policy violation anymore, it was a smoking gun of predatory intent. Regina Sterling sat in her office, the blinds drawn tight. Across from her sat District Attorney Franklin Moss, a man known for being politically cautious. Usually, Moss avoided prosecuting police officers like the plague. It was career suicide in a town that prided itself on backing the blue. But today, Moss looked pale. He had just listened to the audio of Halloway whispering about his pension while twisting Dante's arm. "It's undeniable." "Regina," Moss said, loosening his tie. "The intent is explicit. He wasn't reacting to a threat. He was manufacturing one for financial gain. I need an arrest this month, or the pension review is going to be a bitch." That line alone turns this from a bad arrest into official misconduct and arguably extortion. "I don't want misconduct." "Franklin," Regina said, her voice low and steady. "I want aggravated assault. I want false imprisonment. And I want a hate crime enhancement. He targeted my son because he saw a black boy alone in a store and decided he was an easy mark to pad his stats." Moss sighed, rubbing his temples. "The union is going to scream. Dougherty is already threatening to organize a blue flu walkout if we charge him." "Let them walk," Regina said, leaning forward. "I'll patrol the streets myself if I have to. But if we let this slide, if we let a man who hunts children for his retirement fund keep his badge, then we don't deserve to wear the uniform. You charge him, Franklin, or I release the tape to the national press and tell them you refuse to." Moss looked at Regina. He saw the fire in her eyes, not just the fire of a mother, but the fire of a chief who was done with the old way of doing things. "Draw up the warrant," Moss said. "I'll sign it. At 11 a.m. Regina stepped out onto the precinct steps. The crowd was massive. Word had spread that something big was coming. News vans from 3 different counties were double-parked along the street. Regina stood at the podium. She didn't have notes. She didn't need them. "Transparency is not a luxury," she began, her voice amplified across the silent crowd. "It is the foundation of trust. When that trust is broken by those sworn to protect you, it is my duty to expose it." She signaled to the tech officer. A large monitor set up next to the podium flickered to life. She played the video. The crowd watched the grainy footage of the struggle. But then, the audio played. The amplified, crystal-clear whispers of Brett Halloway echoed through the town square. "Cry for me. Come on. Give me a reason to snap it." A collective gasp rippled through the audience. People covered their mouths. A mother in the front row pulled her child closer. "This," Regina said, pointing at the frozen image of Halloway's sneering face, "is not policing. This is predation. As of this morning, Officer Brett Halloway has been fired, but that is not enough. 10 minutes ago, the district attorney issued a warrant for his arrest on felony charges." The crowd erupted. It wasn't a cheer of joy. It was a roar of vindication. For years, Halloway had bullied the town writing bogus tickets, harassing teenagers, intimidating business owners. Everyone knew he was a tyrant, but he had always hidden behind the badge. Now, he was naked before them. Halloway was watching from his living room. He sat in his recliner, a half-empty beer on the coaster, staring at the TV in horror. "They can't do this," he muttered, his hands shaking. "I'm a cop. I have rights." His wife, Sarah, walked into the room. She was holding a suitcase. Halloway looked up, confused. "Where are you going? Did you hear what that witch just said?" "They're coming for me." "Sarah, you need to call Dougherty." Sarah looked at him with a mixture of pity and disgust. For years she had defended him. She had told her friends he was just stressed from the job. She had excused his temper, his drinking, his bitterness, but she had heard the tape. She heard the pleasure in his voice when he hurt that boy. "I heard it." "Brett," she said quietly. "I heard you whisper. You sounded happy." "I was doing my job," he screamed, standing up and knocking the bear over. "No," she said, walking to the door. You were being a monster. I can't have the kids around this. I can't be around this. You're leaving me now. When I'm under attack, you aren't under attack. Brett, she said, opening the front door. You're just finally paying the bill. She walked out. Halloway ran to the window, watching her car pull away. He was screaming at the glass, banging on it with his fist. He didn't notice the 3 squad cars pulling up silently behind her. The knock on the door wasn't the polite rap of a neighbor. It was the heavy, authoritative pound of the police. Boom! 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 Police warrant, open the door. Halloway froze. He knew that knock. He had delivered that knock 1,000 times. He never thought he would hear it from the inside. He opened the door. Standing there wasn't a rookie. It was Sergeant Miller, his old partner, the man who had driven him home the night of the incident. Miller looked grim. He wasn't smiling. His hand was resting on his holstered weapon. "Brett Halloway," Miller said formally, "I have a warrant for your arrest." "Miller, come on," Halloway pleaded, stepping back. "It's me. It's Brett. We played poker last Friday. You can't do this. Step out onto the porch." "Brett," Miller said, his voice flat. "Don't make us come in there." Halloway looked past Miller. The entire street was lined with neighbors. Mrs. Gable was there, recording again. The kids he used to yell at for playing basketball were watching, silent and wide-eyed. Halloway stepped out. He felt small, without the uniform, without the gun, without the badge. He was just a middle-aged man in stained sweatpants. "Turn around," Miller ordered. Halloway turned. He felt the cold steel of the handcuffs click onto his wrists. The sound was deafening. It was the same sound he had inflicted on Dante just days ago. "You're making a mistake," Halloway whispered as Miller marched him down the driveway. "The union will fix this. I'll be back." Miller pushed him into the back of the cruiser. "The union isn't coming. Brett, Dougherty resigned this morning. You're on your own." The door slammed shut. Halloway looked through the caged glass. He saw his house, empty and dark. He saw the neighbors turning away. He realized, with a sinking dread, that his life as he knew it was over. The legal process was swift and brutal. Usually, cops get professional courtesy low bail, a side entrance to the courthouse, a judge who gives them the benefit of the doubt. Regina ensured that didn't happen. At the arraignment, the courtroom was packed. Dante sat in the front row, wearing a sling on his arm. Next to him was Regina, in full uniform. The judge, Honorable Catherine Vance, looked over her glasses at Halloway. He was wearing an orange jumpsuit. It fit him poorly. "Mr. Halloway," Judge Vance said, "you are charged with aggravated assault, official misconduct, and deprivation of rights under color of law. How do you plead not guilty?" Halloway's public defender squeaked. His expensive private lawyer had quit after the check bounced. Halloway's assets had been frozen, pending a civil suit. "Your Honor," the district attorney said, "the state requests remand without bail. The defendant has been recorded stating his intention to manipulate the justice system for financial gain. He is a flight risk and a danger to the community." "Denied," the defense argued. "He is a decorated officer." Judge Vance played the audio clip one more time in the courtroom. "I need an arrest this month, or the pension review is going to be a bitch." She turned off the recorder. "Bail is denied," Judge Vance ruled, slamming her gavel. "Mr. Halloway, you viewed the citizens of this town as currency. You betrayed the public trust in the most vile way possible. You will remain in custody until trial," as the bailiffs led him away. Halloway looked back at the gallery. He locked eyes with Dante. Dante didn't look angry. He didn't look scared. He just looked disappointed. That look hurt Holloway more than the handcuffs. It was the look of someone who had seen the monster and realized it wasn't scary. It was just pathetic. The final blow wasn't prison, it was the money. 3 weeks later, while Holloway sat in county jail awaiting trial, the police pension board held an emergency meeting. Regina testified. She presented the department's findings that Holloway's actions constituted gross malfeasance under state law. Any officer convicted of a felony committed while on duty forfeits their pension. But Regina didn't wait for the conviction. She invoked the bad faith clause of the contract. Holloway received the letter in his cell. Dear Mr. Holloway, due to irrefutable evidence of your intent to defraud the pension system by manufacturing arrests, your benefits have been terminated effective immediately. Furthermore, the city is countersuing to recover the salary paid to you during the investigation. He crumpled the letter. He had spent 20 years playing the game, cutting corners, and stepping on people to secure that monthly check. Now, it was gone. He would leave prison a felon, broke, with no skills and no support. 6 months later, the snow was falling on Oak Creek. The tech zone was busy with holiday shoppers. Dante was back behind the counter. He wasn't just a senior associate anymore. He was the assistant manager. He moved with a new confidence. The cast was off his arm, though he still did physical therapy twice a week. The door chimed. Regina walked in. She wasn't in uniform. She was wearing a thick wool coat and carrying 2 hot chocolates. Hey, boss. Dante smiled, taking a break from a customer. Hey yourself, Regina said, handing him a cup. How's the arm? It's good. A little stiff in the cold, but I'm okay. They walked to the back office, where it was quieter. I got a call from the state prison today, Regina said softly. Dante stiffened. Holloway. Regina nodded. He took the plea. 5 years. He'll serve at least 3. He wanted to send a letter of apology. Part of the deal. Do I have to read it? Dante asked. No, Regina said. She pulled a folded piece of paper from her pocket. You don't even have to see it. Dante looked at the paper. He thought about the fear he felt that night. He thought about the humiliation of being paraded in front of the neighbors. He thought about Holloway's sneering face. Burn it, Dante said. Regina smiled. She took a lighter from her pocket. She had anticipated this and held the corner of the letter over a metal trash can. They watched the paper catch fire. The words of a sorry, broken man turned to ash and curled away into smoke. He's the past, Dante said. He is, Regina agreed. But what we built from it. That's the future, because of Holloway's arrest. Regina had been able to clean house. She fired 3 other officers who had been part of Dougherty's inner circle. She implemented mandatory de-escalation training. She started a community outreach program where officers had to walk beats, not just drive through them. The settlement check from the city had arrived a week ago. It was substantial enough to pay for Dante's college, a new car, and a down payment on a house for Regina if she wanted it. But more importantly, the lawsuit had forced the city to change its laws. The Holloway Act now required immediate release of body cam footage in any incident involving a minor. You ready for dinner? Regina asked. I'm buying. Since, you know, I'm the chief and all. Dante laughed. Actually, Mum, I'm buying. I got a raise. They walked out of the store together, into the crisp winter air. The patrol car that drove past them slowed down. The officer inside, a new recruit, young and diverse, waved respectfully at Regina. Regina waved back. They got into Regina's car. As they drove past the old spot where Holloway had pulled his stunt, Dante looked out the window. The fear was gone. The memory was just a scar now, fading with time. Meanwhile, 200 miles away, in a cold, grey cell at the upstate correctional facility, inmate number 8940 sat on his bunk. The lights were about to go out. Halloway looked at the photo he had taped to the wall. It was an old picture of him and his wife on a boat. The boat was sold. The wife was gone. He heard the guards doing their rounds. Clank, clang. He remembered how powerful he used to feel when he heard that sound. He remembered how he used to laugh at the people on the other side of the bars. Now, he was just a number. He whispered into the darkness, repeating the words that had cost him everything. I need an arrest. The irony tasted like ash in his mouth. He had gotten his arrest. He just never thought he'd be the one in the cuffs. The lights went out. Halloway sat in the dark, alone with his choices, while back in Oak Creek, the city he once terrorized slept soundly, safe under the watch of a mother who had burned the corruption to the ground. Brett Halloway spent 20 years thinking the badge was a shield that protected him from consequences. He thought he could target the vulnerable, break the rules, and ruin lives for a paycheck. But he made the fatal mistake of underestimating the bond between a mother and her son. He didn't just lose his job, he lost his legacy, his family, and his freedom. It's a harsh lesson, but a necessary one. The higher you climb on a ladder of corruption, the harder you fall when someone finally kicks it out from under you. Justice wasn't just served, it was delivered by the very people he tried to destroy. If you want to see more stories where the bad guys get exactly what they deserve, smash that like button and subscribe. Share this video if you believe in real justice. And let us know in the comments, do you think 5 years was enough? Or should Halloway have gotten more thanks for watching?